Barricades on the outskirts of Kiev, where they're preparing for an assault, possibly within days.
President Zelensky was asked about it today, and he said if President Putin is determined to take Kiev, he'll have to raze the city to the ground.
We hear from the young Ukrainian recruits at the checkpoints they'll be defending. Satellite imagery shows some of the damage in the city of Mariupol, with claims Russian troops are stopping people from leaving. And making music amidst the madness, we talk to some of the violinists trying to raise money for the people of Ukraine. Now, a group of top international violinists from 29 countries have collaborated on a video performance to raise money for the Ukrainians. Let's take a listen. Well, that's beautiful, isn't it?
Now, officials in Moscow are warning that Western sanctions could cause the International Space Station to crash. They believe the measures could disrupt the operations of Russian vessels serving the ISS. The Russian section of the station weighs 500 tons and helps to correct its orbit.
A Soviet-era scouting drone has crashed near the Croatian capital Zagreb. Authorities there say it's not clear who launched the military drone, which apparently flew from Ukraine across Hungary without being intercepted by NATO. Investigators will examine the black box of the drone, which narrowly missed a student dormitory when it crashed.
Good morning. Our headlines today. Fighting intensifies in Ukraine with reports of a missile strike at a military training centre near the western city of Lviv.
£350 a month for taking in Ukrainian refugees. The government announces a scheme to allow those fleeing the war to come to the UK.
The Ukrainian authorities say that 13,000 people managed to safely leave conflict zones yesterday, but those in the devastated city of Mariupol are still being blocked.
Let's have a look at the front pages of today's newspapers, dominated, of course, by what's happening in Ukraine. The Sunday Times reports that an entire city in eastern Ukraine has been wiped out by Russian troops, citing a Ukrainian regional governor. And the UK plan for refugees also features on the paper's front page.
Sunday Express, one of the other papers, also leading with that scheme to support Ukrainian refugees. More details expected from the government tomorrow. We're going to talk about it during the programme. The paper also reports that the Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove will say that it's a safe haven for thousands of families enduring their darkest hours.
The Sunday Mirror has a photo of dozens of orphaned babies and toddlers hiding in a basement as shelling across Ukraine continues. It again highlights the heartbreaking reality of the war.
And the Mail on Sunday claims that the mansions of Russian oligarchs would be seized and used to house Ukrainians fleeing the war under a plan being championed by Michael Gove. Let's get up to date with everything that's been happening overnight in Ukraine. John Donaldson's here, he's in the studio, he's going to run us through all the details. Morning, John.
Morning, Roger. Morning, Victoria. Quite a lot of developments actually overnight. We're going to start looking at the map. Let's just pull it up. Those areas in red we know are under Russian control. Red and white is where we think Russian forces are advancing. And we've got this development overnight. We think that in the Lviv region, there has been a strike on a military training facility, 8 missiles fired. The significance of that is how far west it is, pretty close to the Polish border and the city of Lviv itself. There we had air raid sirens sounding at 3:30 this morning and again a few hours later. Up to now, that's been considered a pretty safe haven there, and where, of course, many refugees have headed to escape the fighting on their way out of Ukraine. Let's look at some pictures now from just on the northern outskirts of the capital, Kiev, where the fear is the Russians are coming. You can see Ukrainian soldiers are doing what they can to try and slow a possible advance down. All the people on this checkpoint, though, they're just volunteers, many of them pretty young and with just a few days training. We can pull up a more close-up map of Kiev, and you can see that really the Russians are advancing on three sides, those areas in red and white. Bucha and Irpin have seen some very intense fighting, civilians trying to get out. And what British intelligence is now saying is that they think the bulk of Russian forces around Kiev have regrouped around 15 miles from the city centre. The big question, are they going to give Kiev the same sort of treatment, the heavy bombardment that other Ukrainian cities have suffered? And with that, all the implications that would mean in terms of civilian casualties. Let's head a little further south now. This is the city of Melitopol, where you can see people have been protesting after the alleged abduction of the city's mayor. Local reports say the Russian military has installed a new mayor. Let's cross over to Mariupol now. We've heard a lot from that city further east. Awful conditions there, no power, little food and water, many people killed. Russian forces have made further gains, we think, capturing the eastern outskirts of the port city. And we've got some before and after pictures here. This is what it looked like before the invasion, and I think we can see some pictures now what it looks like after. So obviously pretty widespread damage. Let's just end back on the map and an incident up just in the Kiev region, to the east of Kiev, I think. This is a village where Ukrainian military says Russian troops fired on a convoy of women and children trying to leave a village called Peremoa. Officials say 7 people were killed. They previously said those people had been leaving through an agreed evacuation corridor, but now they say that wasn't the case. They were just trying to get out any way they could, as increasing numbers are. So that's where we are this Sunday morning, and sadly, no end to this war in sight.